Most people don't crash because they're weak. They crash because their nervous system is processing too much for too long, with no quiet place to file it away. If your brain feels like it's buffering after normal conversation, if sound feels like sandpaper on some days, if you're productive for a short window and then suddenly useless for the rest of the day, you're not broken. You're likely running high sensitivity wiring on a low silence lifestyle. And there's one specific reason silence works so well for you that isn't about relaxing. It's about how your brain predicts safety and allocates energy. Once you understand that mechanism, you can build a silence routine that doesn't require quitting your life to make it happen. Start with this. High sensitivity isn't a disorder, and it's not a trendy label. In psychology, it's often described as a temperament trait. Some nervous systems pick up more detail, more nuance, more change, more microsignals. It's not just loud noises are annoying. It can be the hum of a fridge, the unresolved tone in someone's sentence, the flicker of a notification, the room temperature, the pressure to be on, all at once. That wiring comes with strengths. You notice patterns early. You sense shifts in people fast. You can go deep in focused work. You often catch what's off before anyone else names it. But the cost is simple. Your system runs hotter. Think of attention like a camera sensor. A standard sensor gives you a clean image in average light. A high sensitivity sensor gives you more detail, especially in low light, but it also picks up more noise. It needs better conditions to stay clear. Silence is one of those conditions, not luxury silence, functional silence. Because for high sensitivity wiring, normal life is not neutral. It's a constant input stream, a constant prediction task. And prediction has a cost. Your brain pays for it in energy, in stress chemistry, in the invisible effort of staying ready. Here's a quick self-check. No labels, just data. When you're overwhelmed, do you crave shutting a door more than talking it out? Do you get irritable when there's nothing wrong, but you can't pinpoint why? Do you feel better in the first 10 minutes after you finally get alone? And then worse again if you immediately fill the quiet with a podcast or scrolling. If that sounds familiar, it's not weakness, it's saturation. Here's the reframe. Silence isn't avoidance. Silence is maintenance. People talk about rest like it's just stopping. But for a high sensitivity nervous system, stopping isn't enough. You need a drop in incoming demands. You need fewer cues to interpret. That's why you can sit on a couch resting and still feel wired. Your eyes are still processing. Your ears are still processing. Your phone is still feeding novelty. Your brain is still predicting. Silence changes the math. It lowers the number of inputs your brain must categorize as safe, relevant, urgent, or ignorable. That frees energy for the one thing that turns high sensitivity into an advantage: integration. Integration is what happens when your mind finally gets enough space to sort the day, to let emotional residue leave your muscles, to convert raw experience into usable learning, to downshift without being yanked back up by a beep, a voice, a sudden laugh from another room. Now, for the mechanism that makes silence feel like a switch. Your nervous system is constantly asking one question: do I need to mobilize right now? It answers by scanning for cues. Below your awareness, tone of voice, visual movement, sudden sounds, unread notifications, the possibility that you're needed, the chance you'll be interrupted, the tension of being perceived. All of that is data. And with high sensitivity wiring, the scanner is set to a finer resolution. Silence acts like a strong safety cue because it reduces the amount of data that could mean something is about to happen. In a quieter environment, your brain predicts fewer surprises. Fewer surprises means less mobilization. Less mobilization means the part of your brain that plans, focuses, and chooses gets more reliable access to the system. That's why silence doesn't just improve calm, it improves competence. Without it, you can start the day with good intentions and still end up feeling emotionally mugged by basic life. Not because life is terrible, but because your system never got a recovery window. You were always on call. Most people try to solve this with pushing harder, more discipline, more pressure, more structure. For some people, that works. For high sensitivity wiring, it can backfire. Pressure adds internal noise. The baseline rises. You become productive for short bursts, then crash into fog or irritability, then blame yourself, then try to fix it with even more stimulation. That loop is common, and it's not your fault. Consider this: a 29-year-old female project manager, competent all day, friendly in meetings, reliable, sharp. Then she'd get home, and a normal question like, "What do you want for dinner?" would trigger a flash of anger she didn't want to feel. She thought it meant she was becoming cold, but it wasn't about dinner. It was her nervous system begging for reduced demand. When she built 10 minutes of actual quiet between work and home, no music, no podcasts, no texting during that window, her warmth came back. Not because she changed as a person, but because her system had room to restabilize. That's the goal: stabilization, not perfection. So how do you use silence in a way that's real, practical, and doesn't require disappearing from your life? First, 2 myths to delete. Silence does not mean isolation. Silence is a dosage, a targeted reduction in sensory and social input so your nervous system can recalibrate. You can love people and still need quiet. You can be ambitious and still require recovery. Wanting silence doesn't make you antisocial. It makes you honest about your processing budget. And silence is not the same as no sound. For some people, it's literal quiet. For others, it's predictable sound, a steady fan, soft rain noise, something non-informational that masks chaotic peaks. The key variable isn't volume, it's meaning. A human voice carries meaning. Notifications carry meaning. A TV in the background carries meaning. Your brain keeps decoding it, even when you swear you're not paying attention. Silence works because it reduces meaning-rich input, not just decibels. Now build the plan in 3 versions. The minimum viable version, 2 to 5 minutes, once a day, non-negotiable. This is not meditation. Don't make it sacred. Make it easy. Pick one transition point: after waking up, after work, after class, after the gym. Sit or stand somewhere with the least meaning-rich input available. No speaking, no reading, no scrolling, no lyrics. If there's ambient noise, fine, the job is simple. Stop feeding your brain things to decode. Here's the small trick that makes it work. Soften your eyes. Don't stare. Let your gaze widen. That signals. No target, no hunt, no problem to solve. Then breathe in a way that signals downshift. Longer exhales than inhales. Not dramatic, just deliberate. That's it. 2 to 5 minutes. The goal isn't to feel blissful. The goal is to lower the baseline, even slightly. Do that for a week, and you'll likely notice fewer spikes, less irritability, slightly more patience. Not because silence fixed you, but because you stopped overdrafting your system. The standard version, a daily silence block plus micro silence. The daily block is 15 to 30 minutes. The timing matters more than the length. Silence is most powerful before you're fried, not after you're destroyed. If you only do it at night, you're using it like an ambulance. Useful, but late. Earlier in the day, it works like prevention. Choose one consistent slot. Early morning works because your system is naturally closer to baseline. Late afternoon works because it interrupts the accumulation curve. During this block, do low-input activities that don't demand decoding. A quiet walk, stretching, a shower without audio, sitting with tea, tidying in silence. Not sacred, functional, then micro-silence. 30 to 90 seconds, several times a day. This is what you do the moment you notice jaw tension, shallow breathing, the urge to snap, the "I can't think" fog. Don't push harder. Insert tiny silence. Pause the audio. Put the phone face down. Turn away from screens if you can. Exhale longer, and name what's happening in plain language. My system is overloaded. not "I'm failing." That one sentence turns shame into strategy. Here's a counterintuitive point. What drains you isn't always the hard task, it's the constant switching. One deep task for 2 hours can feel nourishing. 10 minutes of interruptions and task switching can feel like a hangover. Silence reduces switching by reducing the incoming bids for attention. Even micro-silence does this. It closes tabs you didn't know were open. Now the upgrade version, a silence-based operating system. This is for people who can't simply do less. Students in intense seasons, caretakers, high performers. The goal isn't smaller ambition, it's better rhythm. Use 3 levers: environment, boundaries, and recovery cues. Environment first. Create one low input zone. It doesn't need to be pretty, it needs to be consistent. Same chair, same corner, minimal visual clutter. Your brain learns locations. If you repeatedly recover in one spot, that spot becomes a cue for downshift. You walk into it, and your body starts calming faster. If you can't control your environment much, control surprise. Reduce unpredictable spikes. Experiment with what helps. Steady background noise, earplugs, noise canceling, whichever makes the world feel less jagged. Boundaries next. High sensitivity often comes with high responsiveness. You reply fast. You notice what others miss. You feel responsible for smoothness. That's a gift, until it becomes self-erasure. So set a boundary that doesn't require confrontation. Response delays. Choose 2 windows a day where you don't respond immediately. Not forever, delayed. You can even let people know you check messages at certain times. This reduces the on-call posture, because part of what keeps you activated isn't the messages, it's the possibility of a message. Removing possibility is relief. Add one more boundary, a silent start. No input for the first 10 minutes after waking, not even good input. Your brain is highly suggestible in the morning. If you feed it novelty and problems immediately, you raise the baseline for the entire day. If you start with quiet, you choose the tempo. Recovery cues last. Silence is one cue, but you can multiply its effect by pairing it with predictable rituals your body learns. A specific mug, a specific scent, a short stretch sequence, a familiar walk route. These aren't productivity hacks, they're safety cues. The nervous system calms faster when it recognizes the pattern. Now say the quiet part out loud. Sometimes what you need isn't just less sound, it's relief from being perceived. Being perceived is work. Not because you're insecure, but because your system tracks micro-feedback. Facial expressions, tone shifts, the pressure to respond correctly. That tracking costs energy. That's why you can enjoy a social event and still feel emptied. Enjoyment and depletion can coexist. So give yourself decompression silence after social contact. 5 minutes in a bathroom at a gathering, a short walk around the block, sitting in the car before walking inside. Not dramatic, intelligent regulation. And here's another shift that changes everything. Most people try to regulate by adding something. More information, more stimulation, more advice, more background audio. For you, regulation often starts with subtraction. Now, a common fear, if you lean into silence, will you become avoidant, lose motivation, drift away from people? Not if silence is used as recovery, not escape. The rule is simple. Silence should make you more able to engage afterward. If quiet time consistently leads to clarity and a return to life, it's recovery. If it consistently leads to more dread and shutdown, something else may be going on, like chronic anxiety or burnout that needs broader support. Silence helps, but it isn't the only tool. If anxiety is overwhelming, consider professional support. Make this practical with a daily rhythm. Start the day with silence before input. 10 minutes if possible, 2 minutes if not. No news, no scrolling. Let your system wake up without being recruited. Schedule deep cognitive work earlier than you think. High sensitivity focus is often strongest before the world piles on. Protect that window with fewer meetings, fewer messages, fewer tabs. This is where your depth shines. Midday. Use micro silence when you feel heat rising. 60 seconds. Eyes soft. Exhale longer. Phone down. Prevention beats collapse. Afternoon. Do a quiet reset. A walk without audio. A shower without input. 10 minutes of low meaning time. Interrupt the accumulation. Evening. Choose one silence boundary with yourself. No audio while eating, or a silent last 15 minutes before bed. Your brain needs a ramp down. If you fall asleep to constant meaning, videos, arguments, endless stories, your system never fully powers off. Then you wake up already taxed. If you want a fast experiment, do a one-day silence audit. Notice how often empty space gets filled, waiting in line, walking to the kitchen, bathroom breaks, micro moments. You don't need to become a monk. Just notice the reflex to add input. That reflex is often self-soothing, but constant input becomes self-sabotage when your system never settles. Replace just 2 of those moments with silence. Just 2. At first, you might feel discomfort, restlessness, the urge to check something. That doesn't mean silence is wrong. It means your system has been trained to depend on stimulation, to avoid feeling the backlog. Silence is where the brain starts handing you unprocessed folders. The conversation you replayed, the decision you postponed, the subtle sadness you outran with productivity. That can be uncomfortable, but it's also the doorway to integration. You don't have to dive into it. Just give it a little room. If silence turns into rumination, add a gentle anchor without adding meaning. Movement helps. A quiet walk, slow cleaning, simple stretching. The body regulates the mind, especially when you're overstimulated. Now the identity piece, because it matters. High sensitivity wiring can make you spend years trying to become someone who doesn't need this. Someone who can handle more noise, more chaos, more speed, more social density with no cost. And you might interpret your needs as too much. A more accurate frame is this. Your system has a narrower bandwidth for chaos and a deeper bandwidth for meaning. So the job isn't becoming less sensitive. The job is becoming more skillful with sensitivity. Silence is one of the core skills. It lets you keep the gift without paying the full tax. The premium version of this isn't hiding, it's designing. Designing your day so you don't have to cope with it. Designing your relationships so you can be present without being drained. Designing your work so your attention isn't constantly shredded. Because you don't need silence as a luxury. You need it the way an athlete needs recovery, the way a phone needs charging, the way music needs rests between notes. The rest is part of the music. So do this. Today, claim 2 minutes of real quiet at a transition point. Eyes soft, exhale longer, no meaning-rich input. This week, add one 15-minute silence block before you're exhausted, not after. This month, build a low-input zone and a response delay boundary so your nervous system isn't on call all day. And when you feel yourself heating up, don't call it failure, call it feedback. Your system is speaking. Listen early, and you'll need less recovery later. You're not lazy, you're not fragile. You're running high-resolution equipment in a world optimized for constant noise. Silence isn't quitting. Silence is calibrating. Leave a comment with the one time of day you're going to claim as your quiet reset, morning, midday, or evening. And if this helped you understand your wiring with more precision, subscribe for more practical psychology and self-growth systems that respect the nervous system instead of fighting it. The old advice was built for a world where you picked one lane, stayed in it, and slowly became the person who does that. But the future doesn't reward single-lane certainty the way it used to. It rewards people who can move across domains without losing credibility. People who can learn fast, translate between groups, and build things that don't fit inside one job title.